guys, it's Alicia here with Alicia Dawson Nashville Homes. I'm here with Jamesetta with Sports Mom University, an amazing female entrepreneur. She's going to tell us a little bit about herself and her business. So, Jamesetta, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? What are your hobbies? What do you like to do for fun? Where'd you grow up? All that good stuff.
So I am an Army brat, so I am really from no particular place at all. But I was in Memphis long enough to be born, and we have been in the Middle Tennessee area since I actually married the military. So we're in the Middle Tennessee area since '95. So we've been here long enough for me to call it home again.
You're a unicorn.
I am the divorced mother of three. My oldest, Synovia, works at a music label in Nashville called Big Yellow Dog.
Yeah.
My son Ronald graduated from the Air Force Academy and is currently serving.
Well, thank you to him for sure.
He is stationed in California. He does cybersecurity. I think they call it cyber warfare. And then my youngest is in school now. She's at MTSU. She is going to be a social worker. So
Nice.
they keep me pretty busy. No grandkids or son-in-laws or daughter-in-law yet, but I suppose that will happen eventually. But
yeah, I'm sure eventually, and it'll be the light of your life. So.
I have friends that have grandkids, and I'm like, oh, this is really a thing. It's going to happen.
It will.
So yeah, and it's really funny because my kids are how I got my business. I went through. In our family, you had to be well-rounded, so you had to learn a second language. We had an academic standard. You had to do something artistic, and they got to choose. They could either do chorus, or they could act, or they could draw, but you had to do something artistic, and you also had to do something athletic. So we tried a bunch of different things, but that was my attempt at creating these little Renaissance kids: academics, athletics, art.
Very well rounded. I mean, very accomplished children.
So one of the things, my oldest, she ran track. They all did, but she was really, really good at it. She was looking at running in college, so we're kind of going through the recruiting process a little bit. And then she got hurt and she stopped running. And then with my son, I went through the recruiting process again, and he actually, when he went to the academy, he played college football. And it was interesting that as a single mom, I kept asking, like, where are the moms? Like, where are they? Where's the place that moms go to get information from a mom's perspective? There are athletic trainers, there are coaches, there are recruiting services, but where do you go to hear the story of a mom in her own authentic voice that was real? Because we consider things that coaches don't consider. We just, moms consider things that even fathers don't consider. And so I looked around and I couldn't find it. I was blessed with lots of with people who actually gave me good advice, but they weren't women. And I didn't have a place for moms. And even when my son was playing, you get to be in a sisterhood of football moms. And we all would say, I wish I knew this when we were back in high school. And I was looking around and it's like, oh, this place for moms, it still doesn't exist. And so last year I took a sabbatical from my job. I was in technology for 20 years, and I just decided, okay, I'm going to take a sabbatical. I'm going to go on an adventure year and figure out what I want to be when I grow up.
Love it.
And I ended up starting a business. And Sports Mom University is the place that moms go when they want to learn the tools of how to raise a whole person and not just an athlete. And also the place where you go to tell your story in your authentic voice. Unfiltered. I tell a mom it's unfiltered.
Nice.
And it has been amazing, because what has hurt my feelings is that statistically speaking, the majority of sports moms will not have kids who grow up and play college or professional sports. And overwhelmingly, so I have a blog. It comes out every Friday. It's called Free Game Friday. And so I've reached out to tons of moms over the past months, and a lot of them feel like they're not sports moms. Well, and I've had moms say, well, my kid's never going to play in college. I'm like, but you had to figure out the carpool. Like you had to do the
Wow.
real work of being a
Right.
sports mom. And the end result isn't what matters. What matters is, are you a mom and do you have a child that does a sport? And so what I've encountered over the last few months is that there's a group of moms who believe that their story isn't valid or necessary because their kids are not going to play at a certain level. And there's a separate group of moms who have daughters who play sports. And those moms, sometimes they're going to practice, they're paying fees. I had a mom this week tell me, well, I'm not a sports mom. My daughter dances and she cheers. And I'm like, well, is there
That's a sport.
does she go to does she go to practice? Is there some type of competition? Is her performance being judged? So it's been really interesting for me and kind of heartbreaking because I just went into it saying I'm going to tell a bunch of stories so we can all figure out some practical things. And I've just come to realize that a lot of moms don't realize that they have a story and that we have subconsciously um, allowed a narrative that we don't even realize that we've absorbed to influence us, who we are, what we tell ourselves, and what we tell our children. And so that led me to coaching. One of the things I do at Sports Mom is I do individual and family coaching, and I teach a workshop called Who Are You and Who Are You Raising? Because it is very important for moms to understand who they are. I got into this and I said, hey, I want to help moms raise whole people. I don't want them to raise athletes because statistically speaking, when an athlete has to leave the game, and they all do, they begin to lose themselves. There's high rates of depression and suicide. And I'm like, well, the solution is to help them realize that they're whole. They got this and they got that. And then I started interacting with moms, and I realized that moms had this whole narrative. And when I asked them, who told you you weren't a sports mom? They're like, well, So then I formulated the workshop, and it's who are you and who are you raising? And the goal is to help moms understand the voices that are shaping our identity and give them a practical blueprint so that they can go home and help their child understand the voices that are shaping their identity and ensure that identity is really rooted and grounded in God's word and not in the other voices. So it has been a journey. And I didn't actually start off to build a business. I started off going on an adventure.
I love it. That's awesome. So how is COVID, it's a huge thing obviously right now. How's that affected your business and affected, of course, your moms and their children and all this stuff? Tell us your story, what's positive and negative is going on here.
So a couple of things. Everything I did was face to face. So immediately back in March when things started shutting down, I shut down because I did everything face to face.
Right.
Which was a curse because revenue, but it was a blessing because a lot of things that I thought were just out of my range, I realized that they're not. So, for example, I had to learn how to build an actual curriculum, a curriculum that I could actually teach over Zoom, not just a bunch of bullet points and then you teach it because you've got the words in your head. And so I have developed some foundational curriculum. On Mondays, I have something called Money Mondays. So I will do a short video that I post to my socials. But on Monday nights at 7, I teach free financial literacy classes for students and their parents. I do ask them, I don't just throw the Zoom link out to the world. So I ask them to either shoot me a DM or email me. But every Monday at 7 on Zoom, you'll find me teaching one of 3 classes. My classes are called the 3 Rules of Money, Understanding Credit, and Budgeting 101. And I think budgeting is probably one of my favorites because I actually make them walk through a budget. And I had this little boy, I think of his face all the time. He's doing his little family budget and he's like, there's no video game money. I was like, "Ooh, now you're getting it. Now you're getting it." So I would not have put that. I wouldn't package it as a curriculum,
Yeah,
without COVID. And then the workshop is actually a full-fledged curriculum with workbooks and homework
really.
and stuff like that. And then I teach a class called who like explicit consent. Lots of parents don't understand that consent has very little to do with sex. It has everything to do with body autonomy. And so I developed these 5 questions and putting these things on paper, making it so that it's a for real. People have I didn't think I could teach a class
Hmm.
virtually, and COVID taught me that I could.
Right.
So I feel like it made me really understand that I have enough knowledge to build
Mhm.
actual curriculums to teach. It exposed that I really do. I have to figure out marketing. I have to figure out how do you get the message. Um,
Right.
and so there was the shutting down of the business, but it forced me to do the things that I thought were like I thought it was big companies that had online curriculum, big companies that were schools, and I realized that you can do that as a one woman show as well. And then at the end of July, not at the end of July, at the end of June. So for the past 6.5 weeks, I've had COVID, and that in and of itself has been a journey because it is not like the flu. I know
Really.
I'm I know I'm breathing hard and you can hear me, but part of the lingering impact for me has been um, trouble breathing.
Oh my gosh.
And I have an immense, I'm very easily fatigued.
Mhm.
And so I'm at this unique place where I'm like, oh, my business, I had to close it, but I retooled, figured it out. And then um, I I said, oh, I'm going to teach. And then COVID said, no, you can't breathe. And I have to say that I'm considered a mild case. I haven't
Yeah.
had to be, I haven't had to be hospitalized. And that's what makes me mild, but it's very difficult to teach if you cannot breathe. So this today is me on 3 medications.
I had
So
no idea. That, yeah, you're doing excellent, but I'm glad that you have a mild case and that's so that's scary.
and so it helped me, even though it's been frustrating because it's like, okay, God, I want to get out there, I want to teach, I want to impact. But what it has really forced me to do is understand that I have to even be more laser focused on in my copy. I learned copy. I didn't know that was a thing. But when the words that you use in your your promotional materials, that's called copy. I learned
Right.
no idea what that was. And it's helping me to understand that for me, there are some back end systems as a business owner that I can put into place that are not like ConvertKit. Like I never would have understood what that was, but it's a system where I can put all my email addresses that I have actually accumulated, and some of the things that I had spent time talking, I
Mhm.
can compose emails and schedule it, and it can go out. I learned yesterday that I can actually create a landing page
Right.
for my classes so that people can register, and that if I just continue to understand who my target market is, develop the right words that resonate with that market. That that there are tools out there, and again, it's I'm thinking, well, I'm little, I'm a solopreneur, and this is a big company thing, but COVID has forced me to do things that I thought I just assumed were out of my reach. Assumed that they weren't economical. So I did, I found out, oh, some things are like Zooms, like $16 a month. It's not like
Right.
super expensive. ConvertKit is 30. Like it really forced me to do work from a systems, a marketing, a copy perspective that I feel, even though it's been sucky, for the past couple of months, like just knowing you have to shut down and you have to figure it out. And then even dealing with COVID, it's the figuring it out, even in the suck, that has been the biggest blessing as a business owner, because some people, I've learned that it has taken some people years to figure out what I really had to like figure out in the last couple of months. I shared with a friend of mine, I said, it has been really hard, but the hard has been such a blessing because it has made me figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
I've had days where I've cried. I've had days where me and God I'm like, look, can you see what's going on down here? Do you know? Are you looking at this? But I can see like little things that are huge, because once I figure it all out and get the systems and the copy, it becomes mailbox money. And that is what you want as a business owner. And when I talk to my friends who are established business owners, people who've been in business maybe 10 years, 20 years, some of them still haven't figured out mailbox money. And so
have your residual money and then you can have your extra.
no, like someone was like, do you realize like the act of forcing you to sit down and create a curriculum that you can then sell. And all you have to do is the hard part of figuring out your copy. That in and of itself, people take years
right
to figure out. So it's been definitely bittersweet. But I can say that once I embraced the suck, God has really put different people in my life to say, well, do that. And here's another option. You can do this. I know you think you can't do that, but really, in practicality, go write it down. Oh, look, you wrote it down. And
it's like, no, really, you go do this.
You taught it to me. Look, when you write it down and you teach it to me, that's called a class. I'm like, oh, that is. And they're like, class is not just sitting, is not standing or sitting in front of a group of people. And I know that you would think that I would know that, but it wasn't until my friend was like, I really need you to go and sit down and write it down. And when Jose told me that, I was like, he was like, now when you teach it to people on Zoom, that's a class. And so I speak for all of us who kind of have the head knowledge, but we need people to come and say, you know, that head knowledge you have, do the thing. Look at what happens.
How you get it out to the world.
Yeah. So that has been a real blessing. And I had not realized how much going through this little bit of hard is really it's really propelling my business forward, because I look at some of the premier speakers in the world or the premier coaches in the world, and a lot of them don't have 7 courses, or it took them like 5-10 years to get 7 courses. And here I had these courses that I taught in person, and now they're on paper, and now it's like, okay, now you get them out to the world. So that has been a huge blessing, but it came from a hard place.
That's awesome. So how do people find you? They want to take your courses, want more information?
They can always email me, Jamesetta at sportsmomu.com. And it's James, like King James in the Bible. And then after the S, it's E as in Edward, T as in Tom, T as in Tom, A at sportsmomu. I actually have a blog. They can reach out via the blog. It's WordPress, but it's WordPress Sports Mom U there as well. And I am on socials. They can go to my Instagram. It's at sports sports_mom_u. You can access my email there's a link there for that will come right to me, or you can send me a DM and I'll put the link to the classes that I teach there. I learned that there's a thing called Linktree. So pretty soon, see all the things. But I'm Sports Mom U on Twitter as well as on Instagram. I have a fan page on Facebook. It's called Sports Mom University. They can like me there. So look at the things I've learned. I didn't even know you could do those things. And in a few short months, I've had to learn some stuff. So it's been kind of, I want just, if you're a new business owner, just be encouraged, because there is stuff out there for us that you never consider until
life so much easier and make you more productive for sure.
And I'm like, wow, oh, that's a thing.
I get stuck in that because I'm a marketing geek, so I get stuck in like the like go down the rabbit hole of all the technology that's available.
But people like me need people like you, because I was just out there, saying that I'm going to help my moms. I'm going to put the moms I know in front of some people that can give them the right information. And so when people like you come along, people like me are like, oh, for real? You can do shut the front door. Oh, and you guys are really good, because you typically tell us the name of the technology thing that you found. So we can just Google the name and be like, oh, that's what we can do with ConvertKit. Oh my goodness.
Absolutely.
So people like me, we need you. We totally appreciate people like you, because y'all help us to understand that there are systems that we never could conceive of, and you give us the name of those systems, and y'all come through with websites too. It's fabulous.
Yes, I love the systems. So last question, this is my favorite one. What did you envision yourself being when you grew up?
When I grew up, it's really funny, because my son and we go through this. So my senior memory book, I might be dating myself, I don't know if they do memory books, but in my senior memory book, I said that I wanted to be a lawyer for the Department of Labor, and that I wanted to have 4 kids after I had served in the Air Force. And it was it's really funny, because my son is in the Air Force, so we laugh that once upon a time. But yes, I said I wanted to work for the Department of Labor.
That's awesome. That's very specific. A lot of people are like, oh, I want to be a mermaid or a kid, or they want to be a firefighter. I love how specific that was to it. So thank you so much. You guys need to go check out her information. If you're a sports mom, or if you have kids, I think anybody needs to come sign up for your classes and learn more about how to be that mom as well. So thank you so much, Jamesetta. Please, everyone, go follow her.
Thank you very much for having me.